Hi, it's Keith here again from Target Properties Spain, and today I'm joined by Alex Radford from My Lawyer in Spain. Hi Alex.
Morning Keith, how are you doing?
Very good, thank you. Thank you for joining us today. So today we want to cover what's changed for Brits since the dreaded B word, since Brexit. So since 2021, Brits are now classified as non-Europeans. So, Alex, how does that affect a Brit wanting to buy property in Spain? Can they still buy property in Spain?
They can still buy a property, Keith, in Spain, absolutely no problem at all. Nothing has changed as far as the buying process. The costs are exactly the same. So, depending on the region you buy in, we're in sunny Andalusia, the transfer tax is 7%, as you know. So the buying process is exactly the same. The only real change, I would say, is that they can't just come out to Spain and live here and apply for residency as easy as it was before. They can only spend 90 days in a 180-day period.
Okay, so that's obviously the biggest change really, 90 days in every 180. And how do they monitor that? Is that from 1st of January to halfway through the year, or does the clock start ticking from the point of their first entry? How does that actually work?
It's a great question, Keith, because basically every person who's a non-resident, a British, so all Europeans, all British people coming into Spain now have their passport stamped. Okay. And so the Spaniards are monitoring it that way. So if you outstayed your 90 days, then you'd receive a deported stamp on your passport. So it's important to keep track of those 90 days when you arrive and when you exit.
Okay, so that's something completely new, because normally you would just walk into Spain without a stamp. Yeah. And many people consider the stamp in their passport as a bit of a badge of honour as to how extensively they've travelled. So you now get a stamp when you come in and when you leave Spain. Yeah. And I understand there are some changes in terms of passport requirements as well.
Yeah, so basically any person coming into a European country, so again, British person coming into a non-European country, European country, they require 6 months validity on their passport.
Okay, so your passport has to be valid for another 6 months past your date of entry.
Yeah.
Okay, so Brits are allowed 90 days in every 180. Simple question. What happens if you want to spend more than those 90 days?
So if you want to spend more, basically you've got to apply for a visa. Okay. And the main types of visa for residential users are the non-lucrative visa, which means you can come to Spain, you apply for that visa from your home country, from the Spanish consulate, and then the other visa is the golden visa. So you buy a property or properties worth more than 500,000 euros, and that gives you the visa as well.
Okay, so the golden visa is obviously a whole new subject, which we'll probably touch on in another interview further down the line. How easy is it to apply for, say, the non-lucrative visa?
Yeah, it's a straightforward process. You've got to prove that you've got financial resources to live in Spain. So the main applicant has to have approximately 27,000 euros in his bank account or her bank account. That can be a combination of savings or pension pot, but it can't be income. You're not allowed, with the non-lucrative visa, you're not allowed to generate income whilst you live in Spain. And you apply for that visa from your Spanish consulate in your home country.
Okay, so it sounds like that's more geared towards retirees, that kind of age bracket.
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
So we're talking about 27,000 euros for the main applicant, and then for all dependents, 6,700 euros. So I'd say for a married couple, allow a budget of 35,000 euros. And on top of that, they'll need private medical insurance for the whole year. Mm-hmm. They need to register on the padron, on the census. They will require a medical certificate confirming that they're not suffering from any nasty illnesses, and they'll require a full, clean criminal record certificate, which they can apply for from the UK.
Okay, interesting. And we quite often get asked, we get clients saying to us, look, Keith, I'm British, but my wife has an Irish passport. So how does that affect me? Can the family travel as a unit? Absolutely.
So you've got to remember that the rules before Brexit and after Brexit were in place. So the Brits are just being treated as non-Europeans now, so we haven't got freedom of movement. However, Europeans, of course, still have freedom of movement. So an Irish spouse who come into Spain, and if they're going to spend more than 3 months in Spain, then they need to apply for residency. So and if they've got a British spouse, we would suggest that we prepare all the documentation before they arrive. As soon as they arrive, we get them on the padron, We get their bank statements as well. We need 6 or 12 month bank statements, prepare the application, submit it online, get their residency, and then their British spouse can piggyback on the back onto their residency application.
And you mentioned the Padron there. For any of our viewers that don't know what that is, that's the Spanish Town Hall Register.
Exactly. So any person who's going to live in the town, again, for more than 3 months a year, they have to register on the Padron. And it's actually really quite important for the town hall, because if you register on the Padron, that means that the local town hall will receive more funds from government.
Gotcha.
And also a benefit of that is that after you've been here for a year, the first year you need private medical insurance, but after the second year you can plug into the Spanish healthcare system. And one of the criteria that they look at to qualify for registering into the Spanish healthcare system is that you've been on the Padron for at least 1 year.
Okay.
So it's important to apply for that as soon as possible.
Okay. So probably the next most common question, most frequently asked question we get is, so I can only stay in Spain for 90 days in every 180-day period. Is that likely to change?
It's a good question. I would say not at the moment. Mainly the rules that Spain is applying are with the rules that they were there before. So they're used to applying these non-European rules. Because there's, apart from Europeans going to Spain, a lot of non-Europeans come and live in Spain, or holiday or spend more than 3 months a year. So there isn't a special, there aren't special rules for Brits at the moment.
Okay.
I can't see that changing for the moment, yeah.
Okay. So for now, yes, you can still buy a property in Spain. It's not going to cost you any more to do so. The procedure is exactly the same. What has changed is the length of time you can spend in Spain without a visa.
Yeah.
There are a few differences in terms of your passport requirements. Anything else?
I suppose if you're buying a property and you're going to rent it out,
Yep.
the main change there is that you pay tax at 24% on the rental income, and none of the costs of the rental are deductible. But basically then it's all up to speaking to a decent agent and trying to apportion some of the rental cost for different items such as electricity and water to the tenants. But yeah, in effect, all rental income is taxed at 24% and no deductions in principle.
And that's as a non-resident.
Yeah.
So previously it was 19%, now it's moved up to 24.
Correct.
Okay, so a 5% shift.
Yeah.
And in terms of residents, is there any changes there in the taxes?
No. So as a resident moving, you spend more than, so what's Spain has the tax year which runs from the 1st of January to the 31st of December. Mm-hmm. You spend more than 183 nights in Spain, you're a tax resident. You arrive this year, say 2022, you'll begin paying taxes next year between April and June. And there's no change there. You'll be treated exactly the same as other tax residents in Spain. If you arrive after, say, the 1st of August, because you're not going to spend more than 183 days in Spain in that year, you're not a tax resident in that year. It's only when you spend more than 183 days in a calendar year. Got you.
Okay. And there is still the dual tax agreement between the UK and Spain that continues to exist.
Yeah, that really would apply. So, for example, that would affect people who, say, buy Spanish property, don't become residents, but they, for example, rent it out. Mm-hmm. So they would pay tax here at 24%, and then they would have to declare that income in the UK.
Okay, but you're only paying the tax once?
Yes.
Good news.
Well, you're paying tax once, but you're paying your share of the tax proportional to your grade of taxpayer. So, for example, if you're a 40% taxpayer in the UK, you'd pay 24% here and 16% in the UK.
Yeah. Understood.
But the UK is a little bit more flexible and generous when it comes to deductions. So some of the deductions we talked about, water, electric, etc., you might be able to deduct in the UK.
Okay, so not a lot has changed then really in terms of your ability to come here, buy a property and enjoy it, certainly as a holiday home. And it's interesting, isn't it? Because during the time of Brexit, around the time of Brexit, there was so much in the British media about the Brits leaving here in swarms and not wanting to buy here. And for us, that couldn't be further from the truth. We certainly didn't see lots of people exiting the country, and people, Brits still continue to buy here. Yeah,
there's a residential population here of British people of more than 400,000 spread all across Spain. And they're buying everywhere. Andalusia is incredibly popular, but this week we acted for clients buying up in La Rioja. You know, we'd never had someone buying up in Rioja before. We're active for someone buying in Cáceres, which is Extremadura. So we're active for clients buying all over Spain. So the appetite for coming to Spain has not disappeared with Brexit.
Brilliant. Well, Alex, thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you.